Today I'm gonna play a round of Wanted Reward, CC10,000, sort of a sci-fi bounty hunting simulator. I've got my bounty hunter here named Harryx Caze. Harryx Caze is on his first hunt today. Let's take a look at what he's going after. So I generated a whole star system of 8 planets, and there's a few bounties tucked in behind the planet that they're on. However, we're gonna ignore those bounties and we're gonna go straight to planet number 7, Europa. So we're going to a dark planet controlled by the Men of Metal, so all the civilians on this planet are robots. That's a liberal planet, but there's a target on this planet named Lesky Gav. He's a cult leader, he's super small, and he's got some goons. 8,000. So the reason I went after this this bounty is because the planet of Europa doesn't have many laws or fees. It also deals in yek, the currency yek, which converts pretty well to CC, and we're only going to get a 44% cut of this. So I didn't pick a planet for Harryx to start on, so we'll just assume he's hovering in space somewhere. We'll roll a single random space event to see what happens. So we're sitting in our star van and some organic ship flies out of space, and we rolled a 3, so yes, the bioship is friendly to us. We're just gonna wave. So Harryx lands on the planet. He's only got 20 credits to his name right now, so he needs to earn this bounty to pay the upkeep on his ship, on his star van. Otherwise, it'll start taking wear and tear between games. We'll quickly roll to see if a special event happens. We got a 16, so we do get a special event. Let's roll a d20. There's an eclipse, darkness falls. There's an eclipse on the planet, or above the planet, and the whole place is plunged into darkness, so it'll be harder to shoot people. We will rule that inside a building there are artificial lights, so you don't have a minus to hit people inside of buildings. But the laws on this planet is you can only have a maximum of 1 weapon on you, so Harryx will not be taking his light baton with him this game, so just his light ray carbine. The star van touches down and Harry steps out on the planet. Stretched out in front of him is the oil rig, hovering above the Black Sea of Europa, pumping oil up because I guess all the robots here are powered by diesel. There's a casino here because apparently robots love gambling and they're very good at it. We've got this room that's all brightly lit and there's music pumping through the area. This is actually where the robots sleep. They plug themselves in and they lay in these little alcoves to charge up for the next day of work. Got a storage room, got a small rec room, got a landing pad for cargo ships to come and go. And then of course we have the main pumping station, and it looks like they also have some tanks here, so they must do some refinery work as well. And in the center there we have the man himself, Lesky Gav, wanted for cyberbullying, arms dealing, and loitering. I'm gonna go ahead and deploy Harryx here, touching this wall, and he'll take his first turn, opting not to go up the stairs because of one of Lesky's goons standing over there. Harryx decides to climb up this wall and back himself against the wall of the upper building, hiding behind this exhaust vent to keep himself hidden, to see what that goon over there is going to do so he can predict his movement and hopefully be stealthy enough to approach the main lab. Lesky himself decides not to move, opting to keep his guard up, fearing that maybe a bounty hunter might be on the way soon. This goon, seeing an opportune moment to get some quick cash, decides to try and rob this robot here. Roll a 5, that goon fails. Since he was behind him, we'll roll randomly to see if this civilian detected that pickpocketing attempt. We'll say the odds were the same as the pickpocketing attempt, so a 4 would be a failure. If that robot would have detected it, he might have caused a little hysteria and gone crazy. The goon here and the 2 goons standing by the fireplace decide to do nothing but these 2 maybe warm their hands by the blast furnace over here, while this goon kind of plays Overwatch and checks out, keeps an eye on the situation. The goon over here decides to stand and do nothing. Perhaps he's checking the manifest to see if any juicy target ships are coming in for him to rob. The other civilians on the table generally amble around doing nothing. Perhaps the civilian here decides to check the manifest as well to see if a ship is coming in. One civilian saunters up to the bar to order a drink while the other moves around the pool table to assess his next shot. The two down here find themselves in conversation. Why don't we see what they're talking about? Those two are talking about niche foreign cartoons. Interesting. These droids are programmed to travel to the cargo room to get some more cargo to pick up and move about the rest of the oil refinery. Harryx finds himself in a bit of a predicament. He was hoping that Goon over there would move, perhaps go in the other direction to look away, or perhaps go around the corner, but he decided to try and pickpocket that robot. So instead, the Goon is still there. So Harryx is sort of afraid to move away from his spot because he doesn't want to be spotted. After measuring, Harryx finds out he has enough speed to climb over this vent and hop down on the other side, and then deciding to move again, he can get around this corner and tuck in by this robot over here. That will leave him just outside of the door to the main lab, and luckily out of line of sight of any of the goons right now. Lesky Gav interacts with his fellow goon here, and the two of them begin a little conversation. Let's see what they talk about. Asking about location of the bathroom. This is a station or an oil rig completely run by robots because we're on the planet of Elopa. He asks where he can find the bathroom, and his goon says, well, unfortunately you're gonna have to go over the side. So with his second action, Lesky approaches the door and heads outside. Out of the corner of his eye, he sees our friend Harryx here. This causes him to immediately go into hysteria, and since there's a civilian nearby, that civilian also goes into hysteria. So he's going to see the action going on over here, and when a civilian sees someone else go into hysteria, they also go into hysteria. So actually, this could be a bit of a problem. This civilian here immediately goes hysterical, and then this civilian over here, since he's in range, he sees him go hysterical, and so there's a bit of a chain reaction of hysteria going on. So I did things a bit out of order, but we know that this civilian is hysterical right now. But the goons are gonna go first, and this goon decides to try and steal from this civilian right here. Since these are dangerous criminals, they are rolling on the dangerous target behavior table. This goon does successfully pickpocket this civilian. The goon manages to steal some beer from that robot. Why a robot would be carrying beer around is beyond me. Maybe they really like to just emulate being human. They have some algorithm or some programming that mimics the effects of beer on their system. This goon here decides to interact. So he's gonna spend his actions eyeing up that cargo droid over there, and he's gonna move over towards that droid and begin rooting through it. Luckily, he does all this before noticing the bounty hunter. However, the bounty hunter will be in his line of sight, so that goon is alerted to his presence, but has no time to alert anybody at the moment. If my counting is right, we've got at least 4 people who are hysterical right now. So general panic has not set in yet, so the cops won't be showing up. However, things are going to quickly get out of hand for Harryx if he can't put an end to this and get away with his target. And since Harryx didn't bring himself a evac beacon, he's gonna have to drag the target, Lesky, to one of the table edges if he can. And I've really ruled that the only accessible table edges for a ship would be here, or perhaps the landing zone, or any of the staircases around the edge of the oil rig. This goon here decides to step up to his buddy, and they strike up a conversation. And this goon here just decides to look around. Maybe he's gazing at the oil pump machinery, or he's just gazing off into the distance. I wonder what these two goons are having a conversation about. Missionary work. How noble. This goon walks over to the civilian and presses him to navigate the interface of whatever system this is to see if there's any juicy targets coming soon that he can rob. That robot is still figuring out what flavor of battery acid he wants to enjoy this evening. The storage manager decides to walk over and check her stock. Maybe she found an error in the computer somewhere. These two are still talking about anime or something weird. And all the robots in here decide to stay around and keep getting charged at their charging stations. we've got currently 3 civilians that are hysterical. So we've got this goon that's hysterical, actually, which is going to trigger hysteria in this guy. Luckily, nobody's really facing him on that side of the table. So we've got 1 hysterical civilian, 2 hysterical civilians, 3 and 4. So we're gonna have to see what wild behaviors they do to muck up Harryx's plans to easily grab this bounty. The civilian rolls a hide result, so they're gonna sprint into the lab as fast as they can and hide over here behind the whatever data table this is. Robot also rolls to hide, so he's gonna flee around the corner. This robot here is gonna flee as far as he can, so he'll run towards these dumpsters. And then this robot here, also panicking, seeing his fellow robot flee, decides to follow suit and flee as far as he can away from the action. Also note that I am rolling to check if any of these citizens will attempt a citizen's arrest. However, the politics of this planet are only level 3, so it's a liberal planet, so they're very unlikely to attempt to arrest our bounty hunter Harryx here. Harryx uses his first action to fire off 3 shots with his carbine. After the negatives from the eclipse and his red dot sight giving the bonuses and being under half range, he has a net -2 to hit with most of those shots, but he ends up striking the target with one of them, and he successfully deals enough damage to take out the target in 1 shot. That will spatter some blood onto the platform here, and every one of these people within range can hear the gunshot. General panic will set in, and the cops will soon show up. With his second action, Harryx decides to turn around and fire at the face of this goon that's just across from the cargo droid from him. Because his light ray carbine is a 2-handed weapon, he can use it twice during his activation. Firing off those 3 shots, he only manages to land with 1 of them, and because the goon is a medium-sized enemy, he will take just 2 damage, which will leave him with 1 health, but it spatters blood all over the platform, and more gunshots are heard, and people are freaking out. Now, for all intents and purposes, the target is dead. However, he's only been wounded officially. Let's roll to see if this ray weapon actually did kill him. So we rolled a 5, so that means that the target was deep fried. So yes, Lesky has indeed been killed. We rolled to see how soon the cops will show up, and unfortunately we rolled a 1. So at the start of the next phase in which the civilians move, 3 cops are going to show up and try to arrest our bounty hunter here. We're going to see what this hysterical goon decides to do. He's going to decide to attack. So he pulls his weapon. Fortunately, due to the eclipse, the darkness seeps over the area and the shot goes wide. Goon inside the building decides to attack, so he's going to bustle out into the open air and fire a shot at the back of Harryx here, who will not get a chance to dodge because he never saw him coming. And a roll of 4 will cause it to miss. Normally that would have been a hit. However, the eclipse is giving everyone a -2 to shoot, so he does miss his target there. And the goons over here obviously are aware that there's gunfire going and that their boss is in trouble, so these 2 will move their full movement. However, it won't get them far enough after pulling out their weapons to get into attack range. And this goon over here loses his nerve and decides to make a run for the stairs to maybe get out of here before he loses his head. The goon over here pulls his exotic weapon and turns, and he's going to try and fire a long shot down the pathway. Goon fires his weapon, however, it misses both his ally here, and it goes wide of Harryx, smashing into the wall. Civilians all across the table have decided to either flee or hide. So one runs into the casino here, and the other turns and makes a beeline down the stairs. This one, having already decided to hide under the table, encourages this one to hide beside her as well. The robots over here are none the wiser to the action going on outside. Perhaps the music in this room is loud enough to distract them and cover up the gunfire. Let's check what kind of music they're listening to. Rolling on the intergalactic radio table, Hypno Samba Wall. Interesting choice. So these guys decide to listen to some Hypno Samba Wall, and let's see what they're talking about with this lovely soundtrack in the background. I rolled another 55, asking about location of the bathroom. I'm not sure what the robot equivalent of a bathroom is, but maybe they're gonna try and head towards the charging station or something. These robots all decide to flee towards safety in the other direction. Apparently this robot heard that they're playing her favorite song in the other room, so she leaves the cargo area and decides to head into the kitchen to join the little party going on. This guy decides to hide, so he's gonna tuck in over here by the fuel pump. As my luck would dictate, 3 cops rappel down from their patrol vehicle and land down on this side of the table with a perfect bead on my bounty hunter here. Cops are gonna try and move to apprehend, so they're gonna head over here and get stuck behind the goon. And one of them steps in that puddle of blood. Let's see if they slip. On a roll 5, they keep their footing. So Harryx is in a bit of a hairy spot here, so he's going to just try his best to make off with the bounty target. So he's gonna run over towards the body and scoop him up. And unfortunately, he has to stow his weapon to grab this body because his gun is two-handed. He'll be able to move with the body right about here. He's got a long way to go. He's gonna have to weather the storm until he gets on this landing pad here for his van to pick him up. This goon here decides, after seeing the cops start to come around the corner, loses his nerve and decides to book it over here behind his buddies. This goon here also starts to lose his nerve, so he's gonna try and flee his max speed. However, he's currently blocked by these cops here, so he's gonna instead decide to run this way and try and climb over this on his next turn if he's still fleeing. And this front goon here, hearing the sirens, also decides to flee, so he's gonna make a run for it in this direction. Goon, however, is made of tougher stuff, so he's going to move to get a bead on our target here and fire his gun at him. However, a roll of 5 will cause that shot to go wide. Goon on this end of the table decides to flee, so he turns tail and blends in with the civilians who are also fleeing. And on a roll of 5, our cops are going to move in to try and shoot at our bounty hunter. Luckily, this droid in their way is going to hold them up a bit, so they have to divert around it. So it's going to lengthen their course they have to take, and they're not going to be able to get quite into range to fire this turn. Luckily, that droid has been hanging out for a while. That, or I just forgot to move it last turn. This droid is going to head on towards the cargo bay. And we'll go ahead and move this droid now too. Move 6 inches towards the cargo bay. I'm going to disregard most of the civilian activations now because most of them are quite out of the way. However, I am kind of interested to see what's going on in this party over here. Our man in red here decides to walk back to the pool table, continue his game. These two, however, are still in conversation with each other, and our cargo manager here decides to leave the room. Maybe they changed her song and she needs to get back to work. So Harryx is flying high off this adrenaline right now, and while he would love to turn and mow down some of these goons and maybe waste some of these cops on the way, he does know that the laws are important, and he doesn't want to rack up too many penalty points on this planet because it is quite a juicy place if more bounties show up here. Using his whole movement will take him to here because he's dragging, while the target is an extra small target, he still causes Harry to move at half speed while he's dragging him. He's actually going to turn and look towards the targets to make sure he can dodge the enemy fire as he sees it coming. So this goon, absolutely losing his mind and fearing that the cops are coming after him instead of the bounty hunter, decides to move up and take this poor droid hostage. So he wraps a heavy arm around one of the droid's spindly legs, puts a gun to its chassis and says, "Nobody move or this droid gets it." And the cops don't seem too bothered by this. This goon continues to flee, flailing his arms and screaming, and he's gonna go hide. This goon also decides to take a hostage, so he grabs hold of this robot, puts both pistols to his head, and uses him as a human shield. Goon, as he's fleeing, actually regains his composure, and he'll move over here and pull his gun and take a shot over at Harryx. On roll 4, due to the eclipse, that shot goes wide and flies off harmlessly into the sea. The goon who is fleeing down the stairs regains his composure and decides to advance, so he's gonna sprint this way. Things are really coming to a head here. The cops are gonna move, and the three of them are gonna form a little firing line and shoot down at Harryx as he drags the body towards his ship on the edge of the map. So two of their shots go wide thanks to the darkness of the eclipse. However, one of those shots is gonna catch Harryx right in the chest. Luckily, his energy shield has been up this whole time, so 3 of those points are gonna drop down. So Harryx's shield has taken quite a blow, but he's still alive. On his turn, Harryx drags the body further towards the landing pad. And the cops, having a bead on Harryx, decide to sentinel this round. So they're not going to shoot right away. They're going to wait, and if Harryx moves while he's in range, they're going to blast him. This goon, seeing the firing line of police officers ready their weapons, loses his nerve, drops his hostage, and immediately flees. This goon here, the absolute madman, decides to move up and fire at Harryx. However, he's shooting through the line of cops, so we're going to see how that works out for him. The goon fires down there at Harryx, obviously missing him at this range and through the eclipse. However, the shot finds purchase directly in the back of one of these cops here and completely blows him away. Perhaps these police officers will have to choose whether or not they want to take revenge on that goon or continue going after Harryx. The goon holding the hostage over here readies his pistol and takes a long shot at Harryx through the darkness and manages to catch him right on the shoulder. And Harryx failed his dodge check from this distance and loses the remaining points of his shield. As Harryx stands here with the body of Lesky in his arms, the goon fires a shot directly at his back. However, it goes wide, and he actually blows off the head of this robot here, leaving a puddle of oil for somebody to slip in. Party goes on in this room as the robot takes his shot at the pool table and then rejoins the conversation with his buddies. Cargo manager here continues to bustle about doing her job diligently. And these droids, no longer being hindered, trundle about their way. And this one makes it into the cargo room and begins interacting with the cargo manager, who's deciding what needs to be loaded upon it. Harryx, when it comes time to act, instead of moving, because if he decides to run here, then these cops are going to get free shots at him, he decides to stay put. He drops the body of Lesky to the ground and whips out his two-handed light ray carbine and turns to take a shot at the goon over there. So his red dot sight came into good use this round. Despite the -2 from the darkness, with all the other benefits, Harryx manages to land 2 shots at the goon over there. Should have found a different cult to join. The cops over here continue to retain their sentinel stance. They're yelling over at Harryx, "Freeze, put the gun down, put the body down." The psychopath of a goon fires another shot, and it goes wide, obviously missing Harryx, but instead catches another one of these cops in the back. Another cop taken down in the line of duty. Not even by the guy they're trying to actually get after. The goon, who was previously fleeing, rekindles the flame inside of him and decides to fire off at Harryx way far away across the bridge. Thankfully, due to the minor cover that railing gave him, the shot actually caught the railing instead of killing Harryx on the spot. And the goon holding the robot there hostage fires a shot as well and narrowly misses the little cargo droid on his way and catches the railing as well. So that little wall there has been Harryx's lifesaver. Another goon regains his nerve and moves in to take a shot at Harryx. And the shot he takes actually goes wide and manages to hit our little cargo droid here, and it completely blows him away. Poor little guy was just trying to do his job. Our cargo manager here sees on her monitor that one of her droids has gone offline, so she decides to go outside and make her way over towards the droid to check what the problem is. And when she sees all of her fellow robots here leaking oil all over the deck, and her poor cargo droid with his chassis blown apart, she immediately goes hysterical. Crucially, however, these guys are still engaged in some deep conversation. We're clearly gonna have to get an update from them. They are talking business. Clearly these guys find themselves kindred spirits. They all are into the same music. Obviously someone you'd want to go into business with. So these guys are possibly talking about forming some sort of corporation. maybe to compete with the very oil rig that they're at, because clearly this one's got some problems, as I think they're a bit clued in on the action going on outside. And now Harryx here needs to take his turn to get onto the landing pad and move off the edge. However, to do that, he's going to have to endure one shot from the one remaining police officer over there. He drags the body up onto the edge, and let's see if he can survive the shooting of the cops. So here's the breakdown of Harryx Caze's first payday. So he got his 3,520 YEK cut. He has to contribute 587 of that to his 401k. He then was left with 2,933 YEK. Then at the exchange office, they were charging an abysmal 47% rate to convert it. So he was left with 1,379 YEK. After the YEK to credits conversion was at 1,723. He then paid 1,000 to upkeep his star van and 100 to feed himself. Adding the 20 that he had from purchasing his initial equipment, he's left with 643 credits, which doesn't seem that good after all the work he went through. But you know what? That's his first bounty, and that's his first payday, and he made enough to put some gas in the tank. Actually, wait, I don't know if that's true. So it took Harryx a tank of gas to get here, and his star van can only hold one tank of gas. So he actually has to fill up the tank before he can leave this planet. Right now, he's only got 600 and something credits, and to fill up your gas tank is 1,000 credits. So we're just gonna have to hang out here on Alopa for a while. Next game, we'll have to see if any new bounties pop up, perhaps one on this planet. And if not, we might have to get the casino or something to try and get some more money to go off world. But we might be stuck on Alopa for a while. And each game we'll have to feed ourselves. So we could quickly run out of money. We basically have a little under a week to find a new target or make enough money to leave planet to chase another target. In the meantime though, we can cross off Lesky Gav here, as he's been taken in dead, and we got our reward, and we're officially a bounty hunter. So we'll see how the ongoing adventures of Harryx Caze play out as he chases down more bounties, or in reality tries to get enough cash to get off this planet.